It must be nice to have found a place after jumping around, like I said, from river guide to all these things to a place that you really wanted to stay. Was it more like the the job itself, the operations, what you were doing? Was there the purpose that involved wanting you to stay, or was it like the camaraderie or everything together?
You can always say it's a mixture of all of it. The mission was always the biggest part because you were excited about the job. You knew the importance of the job,
Right.
but it was also extremely complex. The thing that I kind of prided myself on thing within that particular job community, especially when it came to combat operations, is it was less about how well you knew how to do the job and more about your ability to adapt to difficult situations. And it was not a single moment went by where my equipment worked perfectly or people, I wasn't having to manage personalities. And believe it or
Mm.
not, I did spend a lot of my time with the special operations community. And when people ask me what my favorite part was about it, I would say, well, I had the honor and privilege of being embedded and working with the SEAL teams. And then when they ask what was the worst part about it, it's like, well, in one hand, I had the opportunity to work with SEALs, and on the other hand, I had to work with SEALs. And
Right.
so you can say, well, okay, how different is that? It's like it's night and day. You're dealing with a community of people that are screened for being mentally tough, but being mentally tough is also synonymous with being stubborn and hard headed. And so you have all
Right.
these people that are some of the most stubborn and hard headed people on the planet, and they all think they're right. And some of them are, and some of them are absolutely incredible individuals. It's this interesting gamut where you have on one side, there are people that literally live up to every stereotype I ever thought of that community. They're some of the most incredible human beings I've ever met. And on the other hand, there are individuals that were not that. Let me just put it that way. Okay. And
Right.
but they were still very, very strong willed. And so you're having to manage that. And then as an outsider, you're having to deal with all of their, the cultural intricacies associated with being an outsider. But nonetheless, at the time, they had no job if I wasn't there. They didn't know where to go. My job was literally to tell them where to go because of the
Well,
way that the equipment that I used and how the job I did. And so I think the easiest way to describe my role inside of one of those operations is if you watch a movie and for some reason there's a guy with a computer in front of everybody telling him where to go. That was kind of like me. I didn't have a computer. I had some other things, and it was a lot more subtle than that. And I built it into my kits on my body armor so you couldn't see what I was actually doing. However,
right.
if I didn't do my job, they didn't know where to go. And so it was very critical. And there were very few of us that actually could do that job. Like, so there were less than 100 of us total in the entire Navy. And
Wow.
when I was in Iraq, I was the only person in the entire southern part of the country that had that skill set. So I had to jump between different units almost every night because they needed to go on a mission and they needed our skill set. And so it was an interesting spot to be in a position where you are critical to the mission, but some people literally don't want you there because very virtue of the fact that you aren't one of them and you're not wearing a
Uh,
certain insignia on your chest. Now, and I understand certain aspects of training and I understand the cultural background behind it and also a level of trust. I totally understood that and I appreciated it. At the same time, the job still needs to be done. And those of us are doing everything we can to make sure that we are a force multiplier in the equation rather than a detraction.